Hi, and welcome back. Focal Point AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. Program is Focal Point. The network is the American Family Radio Talk Network. Going to try something a little bit different today. I am just going to kind of let you drink from a fire hose here for about the next 15 to 20 minutes. I'm going to cover a whole bunch of stories that are interesting to me and I think will be interesting to you. And then we'll talk about whatever of those stories you want to focus on. I'm not going to do sound bites in this part. I'm just going to deliver content, talk about stories that grab my attention, that I think you will find interesting, that illustrate something, and then we can cycle back to those. We can go into those stories in a little more depth if that's where you want to go. So when we go to the phone lines toward the end of this first hour, we'll kind of let you direct the traffic about where we want to go. So get ready to drink from the fire hose. This is going to be the lightning round. As you are aware, tomorrow the Boy Scouts, the National Council, 1,400 of them, are going to be voting on whether to allow homosexuals to be in scouting. Now, I've got a piece here today from Time Magazine written by a homosexual Boy Scout employee. He's a full-time paid professional employee of the Boy Scouts of America, and he is an avowed homosexual. He's not an admitted homosexual, and he preserves his anonymity. He doesn't want the Boy Scouts to know who he is. But he's writing this piece, I'm gay. There are dozens of other gay professionals like me in the Scouts. So he claims to know that the scouting organization has already been deeply infiltrated with an entire cadre of homosexuals who are masking their sexual preference. And he says, look, this is not a sustainable path for the Boy Scouts to exclude homosexuals. The two examples he gives is going to cost them money because some of these corporate sponsorships aren't going to cough up the money for the Scouts that they have in the past. And he says the other thing, we had problems working with this environmental wacko group. Didn't want to work with us because we didn't allow homosexuals in scouting. Those are the two examples. Corporate money's going to dry up and environmental wacko groups are not going to work with us. And, you know, what I'm saying, the problem that the Boy Scouts had to begin with is they took corporate money. They took corporate money from people like AT&T, gave a seat on their board to the CEO of AT&T. Now he is trying to force the homosexual agenda on families and parents that do not want it forced down their throats. And so he's saying this, second page, if the resolution to repeal the ban on gay scouts is approved, dedicated gay adult volunteers and employees like me will still be kept in the closet, and I will have no choice but to resign. We can only hope. I mean, you think about this. He's been living this lie for years. He's been a full-time member of the Boy Scout staff for years, and he's been an active homosexual the whole time, and he's been lying about it. So every time, I don't know how often employees take the oath, but they're still expected to live by the oath. And one thing I will flat out guarantee you, when you take an oath to be morally straight, that does not include lying through your teeth every day of your working life to your employer. That's not morally straight. And so we can only hope that he will keep his word and he will resign. He said, I'm going to do it even if this policy is approved or they allow homosexual scouts. I'm out of here. I can't stay in the closet any longer. We can only hope that he will keep his word. Now, on the Oklahoma tornado, it's interesting that Fox News topped everybody again. When people are looking for news, trust me, ladies and gentlemen, they do not want to go to MSNBC. They do not want to go to CNN. They want to go to some outlet that they can trust. And increasingly in these crisis situations, it's Fox News. Fox News blew away the competition. Number one outlet in total viewers in both prime time and total day. They beat CNN. They beat MSNBC. They even beat out the Weather Channel, which typically when the instance is a severe weather episode, a lot of times the Weather Channel will be out there number one. Now, on the Muslim front, there's a guy by the name of Ibrahim Todashev. Turns out he was a buddy of one of the Boston bombers, the older one, the guy that died his brother ran over him with the car and killed him. Well, he was being interviewed by the FBI, one of the same agent that kind of tracked down the older brother. And he got into some kind of altercation with the FBI guy last night and got shot dead. So that is one less Muslim now that the FBI is going to have to track. Now, here's an alarming story out of the UK. And, I mean, you know what I've said is that we're going to have to do something about Islamic immigration. I see no other solution because of the ideology of Islam. We have nothing against Muslims as people. Problem is not with them as people. It's with their religion. It's with their ideology. If they're willing to check their ideology at the door, that's a suitcase of the Islamic ideology that they won't bring with them into the country, they're welcome. But if they bring that ideology, that's a problem because every one of them represents a potential threat to national security. Now, here's a story that's breaking this morning on the BBC where two Muslims, assaulted a soldier. This is in London. Crime in Italy. This is in London. Two Muslims wielding machetes assaulted this British soldier in the middle of the street, and they cut his head off while they were shouting, Allahu Akbar. That's in London. Happened last night. The Prime Minister has called an emergency meeting because of the national security implications of that terrorist attack. Now let's see what else we want to take a quick look at before we go back into some more of these details. You might be aware that the immigration bill passed out of the Senate subcommittee yesterday. And this is setting up Ted Cruz against Marco Rubio, by the way. Ted Cruz is against this thing. He debated against it yesterday, and yet the thing went forward. Marco Rubio is championing this bill. So this is going to be an opportunity for the American people to see the differences between Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio. And I've said it over and over again, Marco Rubio, this immigration deal makes it clear that Marco Rubio is not the man. If anybody's the man, it is Ted Cruz. I mean, Ted Cruz is rapidly rising to the top. We're going to have a soundbite from Rand Paul defending Apple Corporation. They got called on the carpet yesterday, completely inexcusable. Nobody's accusing the Apple company of not paying their taxes. They have a stack. Their tax return every year is 2 feet high. Apple pays $6 billion in taxes. They pay 2% of all of the tax that the federal government collects is paid by Apple, and yet they're being called into this committee hearing and being dressed down like they were truant school children. And the only one that spoke up on their behalf was Rand Paul. So Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, I mean, you think about this for a minute. I mean, these liberals that are running this committee, rather than excoriating Apple, they should be kissing the ground on which Apple executives walk. Why? Because it is Apple that is making all of their welfare programs, all their subsidy programs, all their Obama phone programs, all of their food stamp programs, all of their subsidized housing programs. They're the ones that are making all of that possible. If it weren't for Apple and the $6 billion in taxes that they pay every year, they wouldn't be able to do all those things. They should be thanking them. They should be holding ticker tape parades for them down the streets of Washington, D.C. Instead, they bring them into a back room and they lash them with whips. So, and Rand Paul sticking up for him. And now we're finding out. Remember, the immigration supporters said, oh, we're going to be tough. We're going to be brutal on these illegal aliens. They're not going to get a pass on this. We're going to collect their back taxes. We're going to go after them. They're going to have to pay every penny of taxes that they owe. They're going to have to pay fines. We're going to do background checks on them. We're going to drill them. They're going to have to wait forever. Marco Rubio saying, man, this thing is so tough. My parents couldn't have even got in the country under this deal. It's so tough. And I just have to think, how in the world do they think that's going to sell this to illegal aliens? They're going to say, frit, I'll just stay in the shadows. I like it here. I don't have to pay taxes. I'm paid under the table. I don't have to worry about background checks. Nobody's going to deport me because all I got to say is that I was brought here before I was 16 by my parents, and they'll automatically let me stay. 99.5% of the illegals that make that claim get to stay. So why would I want to come out of the shadows? What good is it going to do me? have to pay all those back taxes and all that. And now Chuck Schumer is out there admitting that there's no way we're going to be able to collect all their back taxes. There's no way to do it because they've been working off the books. They've been living in the shadows. They may not have the records that they need to substantiate how much money they made, how much money they owe. And so Schumer says, hey, we're never going to collect those back taxes. We just put that in there basically to make people think that we were serious about this whole deal. There's no way we're going to do that. It's not possible. In fact, he says, the worry I have here is that by being as rigid as this amendment is, it will delay and prevent many, many people from coming out of the shadows. So you realize right away what Chuck Schumer is saying. Look, that's mean. We can't expect these people to pay the back taxes. We can't expect them to pay the taxes that every other hardworking American citizen paid for all those years. We can't expect them to do that. That's just mean. That's rigid. That's hard-hearted. So you can see right now the stage is already being set where they're going to amend that provision if this thing gets anywhere and say, nah, we were just kidding. You don't have to pay back taxes at all whatsoever. Let's see. Talk about this. Here's something we're going to come back to this IRS deal, but if this doesn't grind your gears, here is a story from the Smoking Gun about an IRS employee. Now, these are the people that out there are harassing us. These are the people that we are paying to harass the Tea Party groups that we belong to harass the conservative pro-family groups that we support. We're paying these people good money to harass us. And here is an employee, Yatunde Oseni. She was given a government credit card in her service with the IRS. She's used it for years, since 2000, to go on an Amazon.com shopping spree. This is what she bought with your money and my money while she and her colleagues were harassing us relentlessly. She bought a chocolate fondue fountain with our money. She bought Bollywood movies. She bought Pampers. She bought Harlequin romance novels. She bought Omaha steaks. I don't even eat Omaha steaks. She bought apple-bottom skinny jeans, mango body wash, and a Ginzu knife set. She bought plus-size trench coats, nostalgic Electrics Retro Series snow cone makers. Back in 2, Focal Point A for Talk.